Since I am doing this with like an undercut, I can be a little bit careless with it in terms of stopping and starting. When I come to do a top coat, I'll be a little bit more controlled in making sure I do a clean start and stop, because that way then I'll get a better top coat when I do the top coat. When you're spraying, you tend to use a technique which is called wet edge, keeping a wet edge. So you sort of spray it across here and then you do that bit, so you overlap by about 50% each time following the wet edge. Hence why it's called wet edge. Now that bit I will also leave to one side. All the other bits too, okay. I'm leaving the bigger bits until last. Which may be a mistake or maybe not, we shall see. I've not got a lot left to do. This is going rather quickly. Let's do this edge first this time. As I mentioned, I'll hit most of the edges when I do the other side on those. Okay, so now onto some of the bigger parts, and I'm just wondering whether I'm going to take off. Yeah, I might do. Ooh. Glad that didn't go on the floor. I don't want wet paint on the floor. Now spraying is really rather good for doing this sort of stuff because it creates a thin coat, as I mentioned earlier. Whereas if I was doing it with a paintbrush, it would be a lot thicker, which means that when I do some of the detail, moulded into things like the cab with the sort of the handles and things, I won't fill in the detail. Where if I'm doing it with the thick paint on with a paintbrush, I might. So you're always best doing it with thin paint if you can, even when you're doing the top coat. If you have to do it with a paintbrush, then do so. You can get spray cans. Spray cans tend to use a lot of paint rather quickly. I mean, I've hardly used any of this actually. I could probably have just used a small cup, little sort of, was it a quarter fluid ounce, something like that, a few millilitres, and I probably still have had enough paint to do all of this. So I'm not skimping on the paint, so I'm not trying to use as little paint as possible. That's something I kind of learnt a long time ago. Whilst I hate wasting stuff, it's better to waste paint by throwing away what you don't use and get a good finish than to try skimping, get a bad finish, have to do it again. Because you waste more paint then, or perhaps even have to rub it down and start again, wasting even more paint and time. So now that's a moulding mark. Oh, I've got some silicone release left on it. That I'll have to wait until that dries and see. If it's smooth, then it's probably silicone release. In which case, what I might do is scrape it off, sand it down, clean it, and then we'll undercoat it when I do the other side again. Because otherwise, well, it's the mud guard, so it's not particularly visible, but if it was on the surface, then it would give you a bad finish. Silicone mould release or silicone spray of any kind is very bad for spray painting, particularly acrylic paint, which is water based, because of course the silicone is also water repellent. Right, so okay, before I just do the next bit, what I'm going to do is just get my screwdriver out. I'm just going to take these black pieces off. I may spray them, but I'm going to take the screws out first. So I'm not going to spray them with the screws in. Could do, but I'm just a bit more, I want to be a little bit more tidy than that. So I will tuck those screws over there in the water. Yeah, that was a good thing, wasn't it? Okay, so might as well spray these. So since I'm spraying white on black, you should be able to see it. A little bit too wet was that. Because it started to run, which is not good. Now, if I was really painting these, I am really painting these, but if I was really painting these as being on show, and these aren't particularly, I would probably be doing at least a second or even a third coat, because they're a little bit dull. So let's dry it, and I can put a little bit more over the top. You can't just keep putting paint on, it does have to dry in between and bond, otherwise effectively all you get is one thick layer. You don't get two thin layers, you get one thick layer. Even though it looks to have dried in between, because it's sort of dried, it's touch dry, but it's not actually sort of hardened. Another tip with spraying as well is, and it's something quite a lot of people do if they're not particularly experienced with it, and that is, don't do that. Come on, focus. Okay, don't do that. Do that. Okay, because otherwise what's happening is you're getting more paint in the centre than you do at the edges. It's actually a technique for feathering out, is that, which spray painters use. But when you're spraying something like this, it's not what you want it an even coat. So move your arm backwards and forwards, don't twist your arm. it is quite hard to do white on white. I'm able to see what I'm doing just because I've got the bright light, which helps, and also I've got I can just see it wet. The white is very slightly subtly different. You see this is cream, that's actually white. So again, you can see what you've done, but usually it's not as easy to see while you're doing it. As I mentioned before, I'm being quite conservative with the amount of paint I'm putting on here. Not like a spray can where you basically just spray it and it comes out at full blast. Here I can control the amount of paint. Now the source of air for this is a compressor. You're not hearing the compressor because whilst I do have a small compressor, a proper airbrush compressor here in the studio, I don't often run it now these days. I used to use it a lot. It's quite quiet actually, it's a relatively quiet compressor, but it would be a little bit noisy whilst I'm airbrushing.